Hey guys, welcome to another chapter of B&E Slotsport's How to Build a High Performance Hard Body Slot Car. Most of our cars are raced on commercial slot car raceways, but you can tone down whatever it is that I'm doing for your local club track if you're racing on a shorter oval or lazy 8 or whatever. Basically what I want to cover today is body mounting. We're going to go ahead and go through the steps of how I go ahead and I mount the bodies. So I'm going to show you how I cut back the bodies so we hog out the wheel wells and everything else, and we get the bodies a little bit lower to meet your tech height, depending on what your tech height is. Some guys are really slamming them, but we have a tech height of 1.7", and you have to have the original door line of the model kit visible. So that way they don't look like slammed wedges. At that point, I don't know why you even want to race a model car body if you want to make it completely slammed down to the ground. So anyway, this is just another chassis I have that's just laying around here. It's usually a spare that I loan out to somebody that wants to try it out that hasn't done it before. We're going to kind of set that off to the side. What I did do is, so that this isn't a super long video, I made some marks as far as how we hog out the wheel wells to make your tire clearances. Best way to do that to get that nice clean radius is you just kind of basically fit up your body onto your chassis and get an idea where your wheel wells are. And the JK or the Parma stickers are bigger, the lane stickers. You could just put those right on your centers, take your time, mark them out, and then I go ahead and give myself some hatch lines just so I don't get crazy with the Dremel tool. This body is a taller body. It gets me pretty damn close to about a little over 2 1/8 in stock form. So I have one line here. I don't know if you can see the top line that I started. That is the door line. With this body, I am allowed to go that low, but I don't really want to bring it down that low because I lose a lot of fender integrity by bringing it down that low. So what I did, I got a bunch of different styrene stock laying around. I got 1/4" angle, some 100 by 800 tube. This is all styrene you can buy at your local hobby shop or online. It also makes good scratch building material for door bars. You know, you want to scratch build some bumpers, stuff like that. If you lost your bumper in a wreck, we do require you got to have bumpers and all that stuff on your cars so they don't look like complete piles of garbage. So what you want to do basically to get started here, I'm not going to go through the entire body. I have another body laying around, but I'm going to get you a good idea. You just take a Dremel with a coarse sanding drum on it, and you're going to go ahead and hog out the wheel wells. And then you're going to go ahead and gently go back and forth and try to evenly lower that body. You're going to do this on both sides. Typically what I do is one side of the body at a time because I test fit it on the chassis multiple times. So this is going to shoot a little bit of plastic around. I'm going to go ahead and move some things out of the way. Go ahead and get my Dremel tool plugged in. Alright, so I got my Dremel tool plugged in. I don't go at a crazy high speed because you don't want to melt the plastic at all. You want to just gently remove it. So I'm going to start back here. You see a coarse disc is going to remove it quite easily. In the beginning it's better. Try to stay inside the line. That way you know you're not removing way more material than you need to. Okay, you see I got a nice radius back there. Okay, I'm going to carry on and I'm going to lower this body. Now, like I said, I had this line. I could have lowered it to that line, but the problem is when you bring this particular body down really low, bodies that are square in the back, you lose a lot of structural integrity back there. So if I were to bring this down even lower, I wouldn't have a whole lot of fender back there to protect myself in a hard hit. So I'm going to go ahead and keep on going here. Just a little bit at a time. You don't want to screw up this part for sure. Just going across the plane, not forcing the tool and just allowing it at a low speed to go ahead and remove material. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and carry on into that front wheel well. I'm going to kind of fashion out the bottom part of that fender. Get rid of the template look of it. I'll take the Dremel. You're not allowed to grind the inside of the bodies in our series. I just go ahead and get that bottom portion cleared up a little bit. That way it's not getting caught up on your body mounts. Alright. So that's that. We're going to go ahead and get rid of all this plastic nonsense that I just shot all over the place. Just kind of clear off my counter here before I get going. It's important to keep a fairly organized workbench. Sometimes when I'm really thrashing, it gets out of control. Alright, so what I do, basically to clean this up, you can use a little bit of sandpaper to clean it up. But a lot of the big stuff that's still there, I just kind of take an X-Acto blade at a bit of an angle and just kind of clean up some of that stuff until I actually pull out the sandpaper and clean those up a little bit better. So and then I just drag my X-Acto across the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the inside of this guy. Like I said, try to stay inside the lines. You can always go back with your Dremel tool or a piece of sandpaper on a dowel rod and actually just turn it in there. And that will clean up your body pretty well. Okay? So now the next thing is body mounting. Okay? What I use is pin tube style body mounting. I'm pretty sure you've seen in my previous videos that I got pin tube soldered in there. And I fashioned a piece of piano wire to sit in there, a piece of 032 piano wire. Now, we do have on our build fixture the option before you put any tires on or anything like that. On the side of our build fixture, I actually have these adjustable angle plates so that you can actually line this up and you got your wheels lined up so that you know where to mount your body on our particular chassis. That top hole, you'll actually just put your car right in there, and once these are locked down where you want them with your pin tubes, you just go ahead and take a finger drill and you just drill through your body. Now you got to kind of hold the body down while you do that. But to show you guys that don't have fancy build fixtures and are kind of just doing things like I used to do when I was a kid, was just build a car on graph paper and hope for the best because I couldn't afford anything fancy to build on. We're going to take our chassis and I'm going to go ahead and get it lined up on there where I want my wheel wells. This is just kind of a hoss way of doing it. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and looks like I'm pretty centered up. I like that. I'm going to mark my centers. At center, of my holes. Okay, so I know where the centers are now. So what I'm going to do, I know this dimension, but I'm going to go ahead and pull out my calipers. Can't find my good calipers, so we'll use the $14.99 Harbor Freight special here. You don't even have to turn the thing on. On to the other side is he cut all that firewall out of the kit. You really don't need all that. It's just a lot of excess weight. I usually leave a little bit just for some strength for front end impacts if they do happen to work out, you know. So basically, that is the side of your car that's modified. Okay. And that is the original factory version. Okay, I'm not going to make you sit there and watch me do this entire car. I think if you understand how I did this side, you're probably going to understand what I'm going to do. So what I do have is a body that's already kind of painted, and it's already hogged out. The wheels are all hogged out. The pinholes are all made already, and this is going to fit most all of my Eliminator chassis that I have in my stock because I don't have anything that deviates. They all fit kind of the same the way that I build things. So my buddy actually painted this car for me. He actually did a really nice job because I don't even bother with clear coat or anything like that. You can do you know, hand-painted numbers. You can do sticker numbers, stuff like that. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to assemble the rest of this body now. In order to get started here, because I don't want to scratch up his car that he made for me. You can glue the hood on in advance. You can go ahead and glue the hood on in advance, but I like black hoods. It's just kind of a cool short track look. So I'm just going to kind of show you guys how I assemble a body that's going to hold up pretty good for hard body racing. So you can use a little bit of tape to hold things together. I like the strapping tape. It's pretty good stuff for what I'm doing. because this stuff does kind of set up. I close it, set it off to the side. Alright, so we got our chrome bits that go on this car. We got ourselves a grill. We got front and rear bumper. Go ahead and throw those on there. Rest of the stuff just kind of goes away for what we're doing. So, our kind of cars that we're running, we kind of got a mix of performance and speed. We kind of just don't even bother with headlights and taillights and all those little bits and pieces, because those will be gone 15 seconds into the first heat. So most of our cars kind of resemble. I use a razor blade, pop all my things off the sprue. I do have a sprue cutter. No idea where it is. Get to a point in your life where you just accumulate so much stuff. Be careful not to break your parts. Every model kit's different. You got to look at your tree and kind of assess how you're going to get those parts off of your tree. This one kind of just wiggles right off. I just take my razor blade and clean it off. Clean off the little bit of flash that's on there. That's my back bumper, that's my front bumper. Pretty sure I'm all done with that. You know, it's got the tail lights on there, and you know, sometimes I'll put a shifter. I ain't got time for that stuff right now. So what I do for best adhesion is I actually scrape off the chrome off the bumper, because that chrome plate don't have a problem with having a little bit of shoe goo pushing past my bumpers, because this is a race car, not a shelf queen. I just kind of even out the edges of the shoe goo that's sticking out with my X-Acto blade. Okay. Now I'm pretty satisfied with how that looks. It's going to look beautiful going around the track. Alright. So that's the front bumper. That's on. Hood's on. Everything looks pretty good. I got a little bit of shoe goo on my finger, so I'm going to wipe that off. I like to use my pants. Sometimes I'm like a 3-year-old. Alright. So same thing. Back bumper's going to be the same deal. You're going to scrape the chrome off. I don't lose a whole lot of bumpers. I mean, accidents do happen in our form of hard body racing. We are pushing some pretty good speed with some heavy cars on the big commercial tracks. But these processes kind of help me not having a colossal mess. You know, parts just flying everywhere. I've been running the same Mustang body for 2 years, so this is like my first new Mustang, basically. We're going to test fit the back. Looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with this one. There's only a little spot to really put that bumper on. I'm going to get a little bit of shoe goo in there, and then I actually flip the car over, and I'm going to smear shoe goo inside there, all inside there. That'll give me a good amount of shoe goo where I'm not so worried about that back bumper coming off. So there's just a little lip there. It's kind of hard to see. I'm just going to pile a good amount of shoe goo on there. There's other contact cement that's out there that works pretty good. I just like this stuff for the money, for what we're doing. Again, I just take the back of my X-Acto blade and I just kind of push the glue back in. Okay. That hides the imperfections a little bit. Again, you got to kind of figure out what works for you. This is just the way I've been doing things, and it works okay. Alright, so now I want to go ahead. Good spot where your bumper actually comes off in an impact is in the corners. So I generally always try to just pile some on there in the corners. And the lucky part is on the inside of the body, you don't have to worry too much about what the glue joint looks like. You know, you just kind of pile it in there. That's my favorite part about gluing stuff from the inside. Alright. Then you just kind of pay attention to how that bumper sticks on. You know. Alright. So that looks pretty decent. I got a little sloppy with the glue there, but you know what? It's a freaking race car. It's going to end up with paint chipped off it and everything else. You could take your time and you can do this a whole lot nicer than me if you desire. I'm going to put, so I loaded some up in the corners. I'm going to load some up So like I said, you know, I went ahead and officially made it legal to do lexan windows. And guys are just kind of slapping a piece of lexan in there and it's hanging out the side of the car and everything else. We're going to have to address that because, quite frankly, that looks like garbage. You're going to at least take a little bit of time and just make the windows halfway decent.
Life's better with music. And with Spotify Premium, you can listen all day, every day. No data bills, no skip restrictions, no ads. Try Premium free.
Your parents took care of you. Then, one day, you start caring for them. It's one of those moments when people realize that where you get your medicine matters. And they look to CVS Pharmacy for advice and ways to save money.
Okay, so that's that one. We're going to go ahead and do... Everything's test fit, you know? You can't just throw stuff in there. That looks pretty good. Alright. Now this one you really don't have to bend because it's a fastback. It should just tape in there pretty nice. I feel like I need to trim a little bit off the sides though. bodies where you actually get to hog them out and run at 3 1/4 wide, but I'm hoping that some of this stuff translates over to some of the guys that are still running cars with tires in the fenders. Check your rules. Make sure everything that I am showing you is legal. I don't want anyone out there in Indiana or whatever to be like, well, that Brian guy on the internet told me. Check your rules. It's your responsibility to make sure you are legal. All right. That looks pretty good. Okay, so the front, you know, I got some harder bends here. So the front does actually require me to do a little bending. So you see how I got my line where the edge of the window was? I'm just going to go ahead and bend this thing over my tech block. There's a couple guys out there in the retro community that are making spoiler brakes and stuff like that for bending lexan. It comes in handy pretty good for doing this kind of stuff too. Let's test fit it again. Test fit, test fit. Alright, I think that that's pretty good. Alright, fits in there pretty nice. Go ahead and peel the protective covering off. Maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna work with the big sheets. I have no time getting it off, but my fingers are already covered in dried shoe. Yeah, your local slot car shop should be able to order you Lexan. If not, you know, while you're at the, if you buy a pocket knife at Menards or whatever and it's in a blister pack, you got a big old chunk of clear plastic there. I mean, that stuff's probably a little thicker than this, but what I'm working with here is 15 thou. I think in the rules I wrote 10 thou. I think that's a little too thin. I think you want something with a little bit more integrity. I'm just kind of trimming the corners up. There's a little bit of static, so I'm just picking up some dust on the windows. Pulling off some tape. Don't need a whole ton of tape. Make sure I put the tape on the way I actually want it. You see how I bend those tabs, you're not going to actually see the tape from the outside of the body, you know. Picking up all kinds of dust on there, but whatever. This ain't a show car, it's a race car. Just pushing her down in there. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. I'm gonna tell you what, it's a happy little mistake, as Bob Ross would say. I don't really like it. I'm gonna take it right back out. Of course, the tape always sticks better than I want it to stick. Alright. I don't like the way it fits, so I'm taking it back out. I'm gonna trim this side. Like I said, you guys are just slapping Lexan in the windows. I think it's a joke. Try to take a little effort to make it look nice. It don't matter. You probably like, screw you. Do what I want to do. That's better. That fits in a hole heck of a lot nicer. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and peel the protective covering off, and I'm actually just going to tape it up in there, and then I'm going to layer up some shoe goo just to get it to stick a little better. And then after that, we will get to mounting an interior in this thing. Show you some ways to mount interiors. It's probably a little bit of a different world. You know, some of the guys that have just been racing on the 32nd scale club tracks and that's all they've ever seen, they're probably looking at the stuff that I'm doing and they're like, this is nuts. But you know, it's to each their own. Alright, so let's see. Yep. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a little bit of tape. Just tape it in there, and then I'll get back to the shoe goo and that looks pretty good. I'm going to round the edges off just because that'll look kind of cool. Alright. Now I'll smear some shoe goo up in there later. Let's go ahead and move on to the interior. But yeah, see, I got a nice cool little chin spoiler. I don't know how well you can see it, but it looks pretty cool. I'll probably put a little B&E Slotsport sticker on there or something later. Just looks cool, kind of intimidating. Alright, so let's see. I think I got a blue interior. Alright, so this is basically your palm interior you can buy at your commercial raceway. My wife went ahead and painted one of these. One of these days, I used to paint a lot of interiors. I just don't have time for it anymore. But one of these days I will do a tutorial on how to paint a fairly nice 24 scale interior. There are guys out there that are way better than I am, but I'll show you how I do it anyway. Sharing information is incredibly helpful, especially to the new guys. So I'm just kind of sizing this thing up. You may want to go ahead and take your time and measure it and mark it. Just cutting this guy out. So it's a lexan interior. Now, one thing that guys were doing was they were painting the back windows and using partial interiors. I get why they were doing that, because the interiors were getting, they would fall down and get, you know, fall down and they would get tangled up in the tires and the gear and everything else. I get it, but kind of just wanted to do away with that rule because it kind of looks dumb. It just looks dumb for what we're trying to do. So this interior actually looks pretty nice with this paint job. I just happen to have it laying around. Alright, I'm going to round the edges off because you don't want the interior, it fits in there real nice. You don't want the interior rubbing at all where, you know, would have any adverse effects where it's going to want to get caught up. So I round the edges off real quick. I'm going to trim the back a little bit more because it was having a hard time getting tucked up in the fender wells. Alright, so that's it. I didn't really do any measuring or anything like that. I just kind of gave it the old ichrometer. Now's a good time when you want to make sure that you don't have any dust or anything inside there. Alright, so it looks like that's going to fit up in there pretty nice. Go ahead and I want to scratch up that beautiful paint job this guy made for me. Not yet anyway. As soon as I get out on the track, I'm going to tear it up. A little bit of tape up in front. So if you are concerned about the interior getting caught up on your tires, one thing I do is I kind of tape it in front. I know that you might think that it's going to handle a whole lot worse taping it that way, but I tape it kind of on an angle in front of the wheel wells if I'm having that issue. The other thing I do is I actually cut a wider section of tape, and I set up this interior so that it's actually taped up above the wheel well. Make sure it's not exposed. That way it doesn't actually get caught on my tires or gears or anything. That's where I like to throw my tape. Okay, that'll keep that interior from drooping down. I mean, that's, now that we've gone to clear windows, I'm hoping that at least some of this information like that, I'm hoping that little piece of information helps somebody. Because you know, a lot of slot cars, you just throw a piece of tape kind of right there and that's it. And then the edges of your interior are kind of rolled down and they grab onto the tires. Especially with us, we're running big tires. Everyone's like, why do you run the big tires? They suck. You know what? They look really cool on these kind of cars. So that's why we run big tires. Alright, so I got myself a nice interior mounted. So, a little bit of dust on the windows. It's alright, I'll blow this thing off. Alright, so then I got my pinholes that line up in case you haven't really seen it. Go ahead and grab some pins. Actually here, I'm going to mount it on this car because this car's already got pins. Like I said, I build all my cars a lot of different ways, but one thing I do kind of keep the same is the body mounts because it actually makes it a lot easier when you can just, you know what, this car's not so good today. I am going to try this car with that body, you know. Because even I didn't think about it. When I first started doing the hard body thing, I just wanted to build really cool cars. And I had bodies mounted all different kinds of ways. And then I couldn't really change bodies. So I got a lot of bodies I can mount on the same car over and over again.
Hey, it's a new year. Why not make it a new kitchen or bath? January do-it-yourself workshops. Register in-store or online today.
Alright, so pretty soon I'm going to try and do a painting clinic. And then I'm going to do some interior clinics. So you kind of see, you know, basically this thing's mounted up pretty good. This is an offset chassis, so that's why the tires hang out a little bit. But it gives you a pretty good idea of what you got going on. The pinholes worked out good. I got the old 32 wire. So everything looks pretty good. I got my chin spoiler. It's not going to hit the track at all. So it's just there and it kind of looks cool. Got some windows taped in, bumpers are glued on. This car's ready to rock other than needs some numbers to be legal. So anyway, thanks for then a bunch of vintage contingency stuff and you know, B&E Slotsport logo, stuff like that. I'll probably mess around putting this stuff on the car. Basically you just cut it out with an X-Acto blade and put it where you want it. It adheres very nicely, but it will smooth out real nice, a little nicer finish to the car if you use a heat gun. That's it for this week, guys. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Have a good week. Bye.